The wind howled outside the crumbling base, dry and full of static. Commander Ellis Thorne stepped inside the broken doors, his boots kicking up gray dust. The base had been abandoned for decades, left behind after the last war. It was half buried in sand, cracked from orbital blasts, and forgotten by every government and species in the sector. That's exactly why Thorne had chosen it. He wanted to be forgotten. His armor, once polished and full of pride, now hung loose on his aging body. His right leg was artificial, worn down from years of battlefield repairs. The medals on his chest were long gone. He had sold them for a one-way transport to this dead moon. No family, no comrades left. No war left to fight. The silence inside the base was comforting. No orders, no explosions, just walls that groaned when the wind pushed too hard. Thorne dropped his duffel bag onto the dusty control panel and looked around. Vines had cracked through the ceiling. Alien moss glowed faintly in corners. But the generator still hummed. Some old power remained, enough to keep a man alive. Or let him fade quietly. He sat, closed his eyes, thought about nothing, but the base had other plans. A low beep echoed through the room, then another. He looked at the control panel. Lights blinked. One of the external sensors had come online. He hadn't touched anything. Then a voice. Cold, mechanical, female. Primary owner ID detected. Access requested. Clearance level unknown. Thorne stood, confused. No ship had landed. No signal had been picked up. The base was supposed to be empty forever. He moved to the sensor console. An old alien language scrolled across the screen. He couldn't read it, but the translation module kicked in after a moment. Approaching life form. Authority level sovereign, he frowned. Sovereign? Suddenly lights flickered across the hallways. Doors unsealed. Walls realigned. As if the base was waking up. Not for him, but for someone else. He ran to the window slit. In the distance, across the dunes, something shimmered. A figure walked toward the base, alone. No ship, no dust trail, just walking like it belonged here. Thorne's heart picked up speed. He reached for the only weapon he still carried, an old sidearm. Not much use, but it gave him focus. He waited. The figure reached the edge of the platform, then climbed the cracked stairs. No sound, no hesitation. When the door slid open, Thorne aimed his gun. Stay where you are. The figure stepped in. It was tall, slender, not human. Her skin shimmered like silver metal, her eyes glowing blue with rings like clockwork. She wore a cloak of woven crystal strands that shifted with every movement. Her face was young, but her presence felt old. Ancient. She didn't look surprised to see him. She only looked disappointed. You are not supposed to be here, she said, voice calm and firm. This place is not yours. Thorne didn't lower his weapon. I bought it. Legal salvage. Paid credits. She tilted her head. You bought ruins. I am here for what lives beneath them. He narrowed his eyes. There's nothing left. This place is dead. She took a step forward. Not anymore. Suddenly, the floor beneath them pulsed with a soft glow. Symbols appeared, old alien runes he didn't understand. They circled around her feet like they had waited for her return. Thorne looked down. Then at her again. Who are you? She looked at him for a long time. Then said one word. Home. And in that moment, the old war veteran realized he wasn't alone here. And whatever this place truly was, it wasn't abandoned. Something had come back, or maybe it had never left. Thorne slowly lowered his gun, but his hand still trembled. He had faced many enemies in his life, pirates, raiders, alien warlords, but this woman didn't feel like an enemy. She felt like something older than the war itself. Something the war had forgotten but not destroyed. The base lit up more now. Lights he didn't know existed blinked softly along the ceiling. The air no longer felt stale. It was changing, becoming warmer, almost alive. The walls seemed to shift as if recognizing her presence. She stepped deeper into the control room, her glowing eyes scanning the broken consoles like she remembered each button. Her movements were slow, calm, like she had all the time in the world. Thorne finally found his voice. You said you're the owner of this base? She didn't look at him. It was once a sanctuary. Before the war came, Thorne blinked. The Zalan Wars? She gave a small nod. You call it that. We had no name for it. We only called it loss. Thorne looked around the room. This place was hit hard. No one ever came back. She touched a glowing panel. It came to life under her fingers. Because no one was supposed to, he frowned. Then why are you here now? She paused. For the first time, her voice softened. Because something called me. Thorne didn't know how to respond. He looked down at the floor where the runes had faded again. I didn't touch anything. I just wanted to be left alone. She turned to him slowly. You were hurt in the war. It wasn't a question. Her eyes moved to his mechanical leg. I didn't come here to talk about it, Thorne muttered. She stepped closer. But the base saw you. It woke because of you, he stiffened. I don't want anything from it. I'm just a broken soldier. No mission. No command. I came here to disappear. There was silence between them. Then she said gently, but this place does not forget. And neither do I. Thorne looked away. His chest tightened. Something about her words touched a place he had buried years ago, a memory of friends he couldn't save, of screams in the fire, of a woman's voice on a radio calling for help. And going silent, what do you want from me? He asked, his voice rough. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned and walked down the hallway deeper into the base. He hesitated, then followed. The deeper they went, the more the base came alive. Lights activated in front of her, revealing sealed doors, long halls, rooms filled with strange machines and ancient control stations. She didn't stop. She moved like she belonged, and somehow it felt like she did. Finally, they entered a chamber Thorne had never seen before. It was round with a high ceiling. In the center stood a tall crystal pillar, cracked but still glowing from within. This is the heart of the base, she said. It listens. It remembers. Thorne stepped forward, eyes on the strange device. What does it remember? She looked at him. Pain, fire. A war started by those who never listened, and a soldier who chose to stay behind. He froze. What soldier? She pointed at a small shape inside the crystal. A figure, humanoid, worn armor, faded markings on the chest. A symbol that looked very old. Thorne's blood turned cold. That was human armor. Very old Earth design, from the First Contact War, 200 years ago. No one survived that mission, Thorne whispered. But the figure in the crystal hadn't decayed. It was perfectly preserved, she nodded. He stayed when others fled. He gave everything to protect something not his. Thorne stared at the figure, his chest heavy. You knew him? He asked. She looked away. I loved him. Thorne stared at the frozen soldier inside the crystal. His armor was old, cracked from battle, but still marked with an Earth military seal, one that hadn't been used in centuries. The man's face was calm, as if he had fallen asleep and simply never woke up. He was the first to answer our call, the woman said softly, stepping toward the crystal. Your kind was new in the stars. The others feared you, but he didn't. Thorne didn't move. His hands were clenched into fists. That's impossible. Humans weren't even welcome in this region 200 years ago. She turned toward him. He wasn't welcome, but he came anyway. The base was under attack. My people were cornered. We had no strength left to fight. Thorne's throat felt dry. He volunteered? She nodded slowly. He fought for strangers, for us. He stayed when everyone else pulled out. When the enemy breached the walls, he sealed himself inside this chamber. He linked his own body to the defense corps. It saved the base. It saved me. Thorne looked again at the man in the crystal. The chamber was quiet, but he could feel something deep under the surface, like a heartbeat. I don't understand, Thorne said. Why would someone do that? For people he didn't even know? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked to a nearby console. Her hand moved across it, and suddenly, a hologram appeared in the air. It was faded and glitchy, but the voice was clear. A human male. Calm. Tired. If you're seeing this, the recording said, then maybe someone survived. Maybe you did, Arasha. Thorne glanced at her. The woman's expression didn't change, but her eyes glistened slightly. I couldn't let them through, the man's voice continued. You said this place was sacred. Said it was where your people were born. I hope it still stands after this. I hope you remember me. The recording ended. Thorne stood in silence. His chest felt heavy. His memories began to stir. Old field reports, legends, rumors of a human who disappeared on an alien moon long ago. No name. Just a story passed around war camps. A ghost story. You were there? Thorne asked. She nodded. I was young then. I thought he would return. I waited. But when the war ended, we had lost too much. Our leaders sealed the records. They said it was shameful that we survived because of an outsider. Thorn clenched his jaw. He was forgotten. She looked at him. Not by me. They stood in silence, surrounded by soft glowing lights and the deep hum of machines long asleep. Then Thorn said, "So why now? Why come back after all these years?" Her eyes met his. "Because the stars are moving again. Ships gather. Factions rise. This place is not hidden anymore. The old base. The heart. It will be targeted." Thorn's mind worked fast. "Someone knows this place still works?" She nodded. "They want what's buried below. Ancient knowledge, power, they'll come with worship. And you think I can help?" He asked, half laughing. "I'm not like him." She looked at him quietly. "No, but you came here to die. And that means you've already lost everything. That makes you dangerous." Thorn took a step back, staring again at the soldier inside the crystal. "I came here to be forgotten." She stepped closer. "Then fight to be remembered." He didn't answer. His old leg ached. His back hurt. His hands felt heavy, but for the first time in years, he felt awake, and deep within the heart the crystal pulsed once like something heard them. Thorn stood in the heart chamber long after the woman, Arasha, left him alone. The glowing crystal pulsed now and then like a heartbeat under layers of memory and silence. The man inside it was still. A human who gave his life for a cause no one on Earth even remembered. Thorn touched the crystal's surface with his fingers. It was warm, alive, he didn't know what to say. The silence around him felt thick with ghosts. When he finally stepped out into the hallway again, the base looked different, cleaner, brighter, as if it was healing itself with every minute Arasha remained. It wasn't just a ruin anymore. It was waking up. He found her in the old communications chamber, her hand moving across glowing panels. Strange symbols floated mid-air, flickering in long rows. Thorn couldn't read them, but the rising tension in Arasha's expression was enough. "What's wrong?" he asked. She didn't look at him. "A scan, wide range. What did it find?" "A ship," she said. "No signal. No alliance codes. It's moving slowly, watching." Thorn narrowed his eyes. "Pirates?" "Worse, observers." Thorn stepped closer. "Spies?" She turned to him. "The ones who hunt places like this, old places. They don't ask questions. They destroy and take what remains." Thorn's stomach twisted. He had faced their kind before. Black-flagged ships, no names, no loyalties. They left only smoke and bone behind. "How long do we have?" he asked. She turned back to the display. 2 days. Maybe less." Thorn took a deep breath. "Then we prepare. You plan to fight?" "I didn't come here to fight," he said. "But I'm not running either." She studied him carefully. "You said you were done with war." "I was. But now I see what happens when good men stop fighting." Arasha said nothing, but the light in her eyes changed. She turned back to the console and pressed her hand to a round pad. Lights glowed down the walls. Sections of the base began to unlock. Thorn followed her into one of the deeper corridors. Doors opened to reveal racks of old equipment, alien armor, energy rifles, tools built for species taller and stronger than humans. Dust covered everything, but the power cores still hummed. "This was our vault," she said. "We never had the heart to open it again." Thorn picked up a curved blade. It was light, sharp, balanced perfectly. "Why?" "Because it reminded us who saved us," she whispered. "And who we failed." He looked at her. "But now?" "Now," she said slowly. "We fight with it." They worked through the night, repairing power lines, activating defense grids. Thorn even managed to reboot an old drone squad. Metal spheres with small blasters and weak shields, but better than nothing. The base responded well to her commands, but it also responded to him. He didn't know why. Maybe the heart remembered him through her. Later, while resting near the entrance tunnel, he sat with a ration bar and some warm liquid Arasha called Starleaf Brew. It tasted like mint and metal. She sat across from him, quiet. Thorn broke the silence. "That man, the one you loved. What was his name?" She looked up. "Kellen." Thorn nodded slowly. "He must have been a good man. He was kind. And brave," she said. "But what I remember most was how alone he looked, even when he smiled." Thorn stared at the ground. "I know that feeling." "I know," she whispered. Outside, the desert winds picked up again, but the stars were clearer now. And in the distance, barely visible, a dark shape hovered above the moon's edge. The enemy had found them. But so had something else. The base wasn't just a building, it was a memory. And soon it would be a battlefield again. The sky above the dead moon turned darker as the enemy ship finally arrived. It didn't land. It just hovered high above like a hawk watching a wounded animal. Long black hull, no flags, no signals. Just the silent shape of something built for hunting and erasing. Thorne watched it through the base's old telescopic lens. Its weapons weren't active yet, but he knew that wouldn't last. These kinds of ships didn't waste time on questions. If they thought something valuable was hidden here, they would burn everything just to be sure. How much firepower? Thorne asked. Arasha stood beside him, quiet for a moment. Then she said, enough to destroy half this moon. He cursed under his breath. And we've got what? Rusted drones, half a shield grid, and an old soldier with a bad leg? She looked at him calmly. And the heart. Thorne turned toward her. You still think that thing can protect us? It's not just memory, she said. It's power. But it needs a link. A living mind, you mean you? She shook her head. I was born from this place. It won't accept me again. Thorne didn't understand. Why not? Because I carry its sorrow, she said. It needs someone with fire still left. Someone who can give it purpose again. Thorne frowned. You're talking about that soldier again, Kellen. She looked him in the eye. I'm talking about you. Thorne backed away, shaking his head. I'm not him. I didn't come here to be a hero. No, she said softly. You came here to die. That's why it listens, those words struck deep. He looked away, his hand tightening around the edge of the console. The silence of the base wasn't peaceful anymore. It felt like a whisper. A call. He remembered battles long gone. The brothers he lost. The screams, the silence afterward. All he had ever wanted was to forget. Now the war had come back. Even if I say yes, he muttered. We'll still be outgunned, outnumbered. Then we'll give them a reason to fear, she said. He looked at her. Her silver blue eyes didn't blink. They began preparations immediately. Arasha guided him to the heart chamber again. This time the crystal glowed brighter when he entered. Not like before, this time it pulsed with energy. Place your hand here, she instructed. Pointing to the edge of the pillar, Thorne hesitated, then pressed his hand against the smooth surface. Pain shot through his body, but it wasn't sharp, it was heavy, like carrying weight from someone else's past. Visions flashed in his mind. Alien ruins, battles on distant moons. A soldier standing alone as ships fell from the sky. He gasped, pulling back. What was that? He whispered. The base is sharing its memory, Arasha said. Learning you. Testing you. It's digging in my head. She nodded. It needs to know your pain. Your anger. Your truth. Thorne stared at the crystal. And if it rejects me? It won't, she said. It already accepted you the moment you walked in. Outside, the ship above the moon finally sent down its first probe. A black spiked drone hovered across the sand, scanning, feeding data to the mothership. Inside the base, alarms flickered to life. Lights blinked red. Target locks formed. Thorne stepped back from the heart, breathing heavy. Time's up. Arasha moved to the defense panel. Then we show them this place still remembers how to bite. He looked at her. And if we fail? She smiled softly. Then we make them pay for every step. Outside, the probe scanned the ruins. Then the ruins began to move. Turrets rose from buried walls. Sand shifted to reveal steel teeth. And deep inside the base, something very old began to awaken. The first drone was fast, black, silent, armed. It hovered low over the sand and scanned every crack in the broken base. But before it could send a full report back to the ship, one of the turrets hidden beneath the dunes snapped open and fired. A single blue beam pierced the sky. The drone shattered into sparks. Thorne watched from the command room, his hands gripping the side of the console. That'll wake them up. Arasha nodded. They'll come now, and they won't stop. She moved across the control panel, waking up systems buried for centuries. Drones hovered out of their bays, rusty but ready. The shield grid flickered above the base, a weak shimmer, barely enough to block full firepower, but better than nothing. Thorne checked the status lines. The base still remembered how to fight. That was something. But it couldn't do it alone. He turned to Arasha. Link me to the heart, she paused. You're sure? No, but I'm tired of running. She said nothing more. Just stepped aside and opened the interface. Thorn walked back into the heart chamber. The air was warm now, pulsing with low sounds, like a heartbeat steady and deep. He placed his hand on the crystal again. This time the pain didn't hit like before. It accepted him quickly. Visions poured in again. He saw Kellen's last stand. The human who once stood where Thorn stood now, holding the walls, sealing the gates, sacrificing his breath so others might live. He saw Arasha too, younger, blood on her face, crawling through smoke as she cried for him. And then he saw something else. A vault, below the base, sealed, alive. Thorn's eyes snapped open. There's more beneath us. Arasha looked up from the console. You saw it? There's something locked down, big, she hesitated. It's the arc core, the true power of the base. Then we use it, Thorn said. She stepped forward quickly. No, it's too dangerous. It's not a weapon, it's a memory engine. Built to hold knowledge. But it has emotion too. Pain, rage. It nearly broke our minds when we made it. But it can help us now. She didn't answer. But she didn't argue either. Outside, the sky burned. Dropships were falling now, dark shapes cutting through the clouds, 5, 10 more behind them. They're landing troops, Thorn muttered. He turned to the heart again. Then wake the arc. The base trembled. Deep below, the floor split open. A circular door slid back, revealing a shaft glowing with green and blue light. Machines moved in the dark, awakening. Voices, hundreds of them, echoed softly through the metal. The voices weren't real, just echoes, stored pain. But Thorn walked forward anyway. He entered the shaft alone. Metal stairs took him down into the arc chamber. He reached the center. There, floating in air, was a cube of glowing light. Inside it swirled thousands of faces, human, alien, old and young, all memories trapped together. He touched it. Suddenly the cube pulsed, and a surge of knowledge hit him like fire. Not just memories, feelings, fear, regret, love, war, death. It almost broke him. But something inside him refused to fall. A voice came from the cube. Not spoken, felt. You are not the first. Will you be the last? Thorn grit his teeth. I'm just a soldier. Then be our shield. Above, Arasha watched as the base's systems glowed brighter. Energy readings climbed. Thorn rose from the shaft. His eyes shimmered faintly now. Not like hers, but touched by the arc. What did it do to you? She whispered. It showed me why this place matters, he said. Now we hold the line. Outside, the first wave of enemy troops rushed the base gates, but the gates didn't fall. They opened, and the base, reborn, answered with fire. The first wave of attackers hit hard. Dark-armored troops rushed through the storm, their rifles glowing red. Some dropped from the sky using boosters. Others crawled up from burrowing pods hidden in the dunes. The enemy wasn't a single species. They were mixed. Mercenaries, war slaves, machines, all controlled by something unseen above. But the base fought back. Turrets lit the night. Drones swarmed through narrow corridors. Hidden traps snapped open. Lightning mines, gravity snares, sonic shockers. The old systems were fighting like they'd been waiting for this war. And at the center of it all stood Thorn. He wore none of the base's armor, only his patched combat gear. But his mind was now linked with the heart and the arc. He felt the movements before they happened. The base whispered warnings into his thoughts, where enemies would come from, where to strike, when to move. He moved like a soldier younger than his years. He led a drone squad through the east wing, taking down a group of invaders trying to plant a breach charge. His sidearm found targets with perfect aim. His artificial leg, once heavy and aching, now moved smoother than ever. Back in the command room, Arasha directed energy flow to the weak points, powering turrets, locking doors behind enemy teams, even crashing sections of the roof on squads that tried to climb through air vents. But they both knew this was only the beginning. They're testing us, Thorn said through the comms. Yes, Arasha answered. They haven't used their real weapons yet. He gritted his teeth. What are they after? She paused. Not the base. Then what? The Ark. Thorn stopped. They're not here to conquer, she continued. They want to steal it, move it, use it. He looked around the battlefield. Then we can't let them set foot in the lower levels. I'm sealing the access doors now, Arasha said. The ground trembled again. Something hit the outer wall. New signal, she said. Big, something dropped. Thorn rushed to the nearest viewpoint. In the sand near the outer gate, a giant exo-unit rose. It looked like a four-legged metal beast 10 meters tall, carrying a cannon the size of a dropship. Thorn cursed. Siege class, the unit charged up. The barrel glowed orange. Shields will not hold, Arasha warned. Thorn thought fast. Open the east bay. But that side's exposed. I know. Open it. She trusted him. The metal door slid open. From inside the bay, one of the base's ancient railguns emerged, a weapon too power-hungry for normal use. It hummed to life as the arc fed it directly. The chamber shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Thorn ran to the targeting control. His fingers flew across the pad. The siege walker turned its cannon, too late. The railgun fired. A streak of white tore across the desert. A flash of light swallowed the beast. A second later, the ground shook with a sharp boom. The siege unit was gone. Nothing left but a crater, but the blast drained the system. Lights flickered. Shield grid dropped to half. Too much power, Arasha warned. We won't need to do that again, Thorn said. They got the message. But as he said it, the enemy ship above changed position. It stopped watching and started lowering. They're coming down, Arasha said. Thorn stared up. The commander's coming to finish this himself. She turned toward the heart, her expression tense. Then he must not find what sleeps below. What do we do? She looked at him. We wake it first, Thorn's eyes narrowed. The Ark? No, she whispered. The one inside it. He stared at her, confused. You said the Ark was just memory, just knowledge. No, she said softly. It's more. From deep below in the shaft where the Ark floated, something stirred, a breath of sound, and the figure inside the crystal, the one Thorn had seen before, opened his eyes. The chamber fell, silent. The man inside the crystal, Kellen, was no longer frozen. His eyes were open now. They glowed faintly like the core of the Ark itself. His body didn't move, but light pulsed gently from his chest to the edges of the crystal. Arasha stood still, watching him. Her face looked soft, but her eyes were full of fear and hope together. Thorn stepped forward. Is he alive? Not fully, she said quietly. Not the way you or I are. He looked at the glowing light around Kellen. Then what is he? She took a slow breath. He is what the Ark made him. A guardian. A memory-given form. Not truly dead, not truly living. Thorn didn't speak for a moment. He looked back toward the shaft above. The battle was still going on. The enemy ship hovered just over the base now. Dropships circled the ruins. Ground troops gathered at the final wall. You said the Ark stored pain, Thorn said. That it remembers everything. It does, she whispered. But it also remembers him. His sacrifice, his love, his anger. Thorn nodded slowly. Then let him speak. Arasha stepped closer to the crystal and placed her hand on it. The chamber pulsed again, and Kellen's voice filled the air. Not from his mouth, but from the Ark. You came back, the voice said, soft, full of memory. I did, Arasha answered. You're not alone, Kellen said. No, she said, glancing at Thorn. Not anymore. The light around Kellen flickered. Then his body moved, just slightly. His head turned toward Thorn. You're a soldier, he said. Thorn didn't flinch. Do you still carry pain? Yes. Then you are ready. For what? Thorn asked. Kellen's eyes glowed brighter. To become the final shield. Before Thorn could ask what that meant, alarms rang through the base again. Arasha turned toward the wall panel. They've breached the outer gate. Thorn stepped back, heart racing. They're coming for the heart. Suddenly, a new voice broke through the base's comms, deep, mechanical, mocking. You are hiding something beneath your ruins, the voice said. We will take it, and when we do, we will burn the rest. Thorn walked over to the control panel and pressed the comms. You want what's below? Come and get it, the voice laughed. You cannot stop us. We know the truth about your Ark, about your ghost. Arasha's eyes sharpened. What truth? You think he saved your people, the voice sneered. But he started the war. Thorn blinked. That's a lie. No, the voice said calmly. Your Kellen was sent here by Earth Command to test weapons on ancient alien tech. He triggered the collapse. He woke things that should have stayed buried. Arasha stepped back. No, that's not true. He sacrificed himself to hide what he had done. The Ark is not a hero's grave. It is a prison. And you still protect it. The transmission ended. The room fell silent. Thorn turned to Arasha. Is that true? She shook her head, but she looked shaken. No, I don't believe it. I won't, but Thorn knew what war did to men, what governments hid, what leaders buried under medals and silence. He looked at Kellen's still form. Why won't he answer that? Kellen's eyes dimmed. He can't, Arasha said. The Ark is memory, not confession. Thorn took a step back. He felt lost again, like the ground under him wasn't solid. If they're right, he said, then we're defending a lie. Maybe, she whispered. Or maybe, even if he made a mistake, he gave everything to make it right. Thorn clenched his jaw. He thought of all the soldiers he buried, of the last stand he never got to make. They're almost here, she said. Thorn looked at her. Then we fight anyway, she gave a small smile. You still want to be forgotten? No, he said. Now I want them to remember why humans are feared. Outside, the sky turned black as the enemy ship lowered. Inside, the Ark pulsed with power, and the past prepared to rise again. The skies turned red. The enemy ship dropped lower, close enough now that its engines shook the sand. Dozens of dropships circled, ready to deploy the final wave. Below, the last defenders of the base, ancient drones, cracked turrets, and a tired human soldier, stood waiting behind the shield wall. Thorn adjusted his sidearm and pulled the combat straps tight across his chest. His leg throbbed, but he barely felt it. His body was failing, but his mind was sharper than it had ever been. The Ark's memories pulsed inside him, showing enemy, formations, routes, and old battle plans from 100 other wars. Beside him, Arasha stood calm, her silver cloak catching the wind. The light from the heart chamber flickered behind her. They'll hit us in 2 minutes, Thorn said. I know, she replied softly. Do you still trust him? Thorn didn't answer right away. He looked back at the crystal chamber, at Kellen's silent form still suspended in light. He never spoke again after they accused him. Thorn said, Why? Maybe he wanted to protect you from the truth, Arasha said. Or maybe he didn't know himself anymore. Thorn clenched his jaw. Doesn't matter now, they're coming. The base's alarms wailed. The shield wall cracked under impact as a massive drill slammed into it. Troops poured through the breach, machines with clawed arms, humanoid, fighters in red armor, and floating black orbs armed with plasma spikes. Thorn shouted, Hold the corridor. The drones surged forward. Blasts echoed through the base halls. Sparks flew. Smoke filled the narrow paths. The old walls shook with every hit. Thorn led the defense, firing, shouting orders, dragging wounded drones back for quick repairs. He moved like a man with nothing left to lose. Arasha stood at the gate to the heart, guarding it with a weapon that shimmered like crystal lightning. Every strike she delivered was precise. Every step she took was measured, but the enemy was endless. A second breach opened on the west wing. Arasha's eyes widened. They're trying to flank the Ark, Thorn growled. Then we close the vault. She hesitated. If we seal it, no one gets out. I wasn't planning to, he said. She stared at him. You would die here? He looked at her, tired but steady. I already died the day I walked off my last battlefield. This is just the last mission. But before she could argue, the light inside the heart chamber flared, so bright it flooded the halls. And then Kellen stepped out. His body moved slowly, like waking from a dream. His armor still shimmered with Ark energy. His eyes no longer glowed, they burned. He looked at Thorn. You stayed. Thorn stared in shock. You're awake. I was never fully gone, Kellen said. But the Ark needed someone to finish what I started. Arasha stepped forward. You heard everything? I did. Was it true? She asked quietly. What they said? Kellen's face darkened. I came here under orders to explore forbidden tech. I was sent to test, to extract knowledge. Thorn's heart sank. But, Kellen continued, when I saw what they planned to do with it, I broke the chain. I destroyed the link. I turned against command. That's why they buried the story. Arasha's eyes welled. You gave your life to protect us. I gave my life to stop them from repeating the mistake. The enemy moved faster now. pushing into the halls. Kellen turned toward Thorn. "You can leave. The Ark and I will hold them here." Thorn stepped beside him. "No, we do this together." The three of them stood at the threshold of the heart, two soldiers from different wars and a daughter of a forgotten people. Behind them, the Ark hummed. Ahead, the enemy came closer with every step. "Final sequence ready," Arasha said. "We can overload the Ark core. One burst. One chance." Thorn looked at Kellen. Kellen nodded. "Then let's end this." As the enemy turned the last corner, the Ark pulsed brighter than a star. The enemy turned the corner and saw only blinding white. The Ark burst open. It wasn't an explosion. It wasn't fire or metal or plasma. It was memory. Energy from 1,000 lives. Rage, love, pain, sacrifice. The Ark didn't destroy like a bomb. It drowned the invaders in the truth of what had come before. The enemy machines dropped to the floor, shaking. Some overloaded and collapsed. Others turned on each other, confused by the flood of thoughts not their own. The red-armored soldiers screamed and clutched their heads as the memories of Kellen and the war poured into their minds. The dark ship above the moon tried to pull back, but the Ark's energy surged up through the base into the air, striking the underbelly of the ship like a rising tide, and then everything went still. The silence came fast, like the universe holding its breath. When Thorn opened his eyes, he was still alive. He lay on the floor of the heart chamber, blinking. Smoke drifted in soft curls above. The walls were scorched, but standing. The lights were dim, but steady. He sat up slowly. His body ached in every part. "Arasha?" he called. A figure moved beside him. She sat against the wall, breathing hard, her silver cloak torn and stained, but her eyes open. "I'm here," she whispered. Thorn looked around. "The Ark?" "It's gone," she said softly. "It gave everything." He turned toward the crystal where Kellen had stood. There was nothing left but a faint outline burned into the floor. No body. No light. "He chose to end it," Arasha said. "To free the base, and himself." Thorn lowered his head. He deserved peace. They sat in silence. No alarms. No weapons. The base was quiet again, but this time truly at rest. Hours passed. They found no more enemies. The ship in orbit had fled. The dropships were broken or buried in sand. The invaders were either dead, gone, or lost in the weight of memory. Later, they buried the broken drones, marked the walls with quiet symbols, and sealed the heart chamber with a simple message. He stayed. Not just for Kellen, but for all of them. Thorn stood at the edge of the base with Arasha one last time, staring out over the desert. The wind was calm now, the stars above clear. "What will you do now?" she asked. Thorn looked at the empty sky. For the first time in years, he didn't feel hollow. "I'll rebuild this place," he said. "Not as a grave, but as a memory, a warning, and a home." She smiled softly. "I'll help." He turned to her. "You sure?" "Yes," she said. "There's no more running. The war is done. Now, we remember." He nodded. Then they walked back inside together. Not soldiers anymore, just survivors. And as the doors closed behind them, the base lights warmed, not from power but from peace.